Welcome back to the Breaker Bros. And tonight we're going to go over Trey Hendrickson's contract. Eric has done some investigation, so we have some
I typed
updates.
it into AI, man.
Hey, AI knows everything. And we'll
if
go
it
over,
doesn't, it'll make it up.
for sure. And we'll go over which position group we think will surprise people the most. But that would be after we go over the Trey Hendrickson thing.
Well, I mean, I think it's more than Trey Hendrickson. It's also this Shamar Stewart stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very simple answer, right? So, well, when AI tells you the answer, it's very simple. So, let's see here. Maybe we do it like this. All right. So I asked, I think this is Microsoft AI, so, not super high-end AI. But here's the key part, right? So there's a major installment between late May and early July, which basically is now, right? Ish, right? Of the revenue sharing. So here it is again. A significant payment is made during this window, often the largest of the year, to support training camp preparations and preseason operations. So late spring to early summer, May to July, is when there's a big revenue sharing check coming to the Bengals, right? And I think that's related to both Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson because so there's, according to AI, and we knew this, I think, beforehand, but it's worth going over again. They call it the funding rule, right? So basically, NFL teams are required to place guaranteed contract money into an escrow account at the time the contract is signed, right? So the example they give is Deshaun Watson. He had a $230 million deal, and the Browns had to put $170 million into escrow, right? So my general working theory on both Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart is really simple. The Bengals have to put a bunch of money into an escrow account because of all the contracts they're signing. So they have to wait for this league money to come in before they can make any more deals, right? I just think they're out of cash. So that's why I think it's convenient that Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals are talking again, right? I don't think it's anything personal. I don't think it's anything more than the Bengals are kind of like a family-run business, and I think they rely heavily on the revenue sharing to have cash flow. And with all the major contracts in the offseason, right? Like you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That's just cash that they had to put in escrow because of all that guaranteed money, right?
Gesicki got some decent money. I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying. I just think they burned through their cash, and they needed this new tranche of cash to come in at this part of the year. And now that they know that the money's coming in and they know how much it's going to be, I think now they're starting to talk to Trey Hendrickson, and I expect Shamar Stewart to be done soon too. Because what was the whole deal with the Shamar Stewart contract? What was the fight over?
Future guaranteed money.
Guaranteed money. Why?
Because they don't want to lock up guaranteed money.
No, because they just didn't have the cash. Because if it's fully guaranteed, then they have to put it in escrow. So they're like, hey, we can give you money now if you take it this way, probably because they had that amount of cash, right? Mm-hmm. But if they fully guaranteed the whole deal, I just don't think they had enough cash to put into that escrow account. So I would expect that once they get this check, they'll be able to close out the Shamar Stewart deal.
Well, that, and I heard it's just basically Katie and her husband, I forget his name. They're the only two that actually negotiate contracts.
And they're just busy. They're in
there's
the
a lot going on because they still have that leasing deal that they're trying to work out.
Oh yeah, so they're the like lead negotiators on like real estate and contracts.
Well, yeah, because I heard Katie's husband's focusing more on the leasing deal, to where I guess she's more focused on the contract situation.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, I think that's why some other franchises have an advantage because they're part of other multi-billion-dollar corporations. So they have the
Yeah, they
cash
just have
flow.
richer owners, right?
Yeah.
I think the Bengals. It's no secret that the Bengals are, um, one of the not only small market, but like their owners are relatively less wealthy than.
And now that I think about it, this might be a good future topic. I think for the Bengals, they really need to consider giving up a portion of their share to get those investment groups in to have this
Mhm.
available cash flow because it's getting to the point where they're going to have to do it. I think they kind of understand that too because they seem to be a little bit more particular about some of the contract language, especially when it comes to Shamar Stewart. I think that is something that they're trying to commit to um, because they understand that the contracts are just going to get bigger and bigger from here on out.
Right.
Um, so I guess in a way it's good planning, but to the same effect, it's like the Bengals can't do what the Browns do, which is
Right.
just essentially kick the can down the
I
road.
don't think it's necessarily because the Bengals are poorly run. Like these issues with Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, I think it's because they're just poor relative
Well,
to other NFL owners.
I think 15 years ago it was a little bit more balanced when the money that they're making now is not as great, but I feel like the more wealthy owners has figured out a way to gain that competitive advantage with
Yeah,
these
because
crazy
like if you
contracts.
think of like the TV money is like where like this big payment comes from, right? Relative to like ticket money,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. Like that gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger, right?
Well, it's because they can, like, they pretty much know the NFL is essentially going to grow what the next 5 to 10 years. Like, it's maybe not a guarantee, but they can essentially predict at least the next 5 years it's going to grow what 15 to 20% year over year or something
Right.
crazy like that.
Yeah.
And if you're a bigger organization where you have that cash flow and assuming that okay, year over year it's going to continue to grow and that's going to be more guarantees, then you can assume that. I think that's why they're willing to put all that money up front because they know they're eventually going to get it back down the road. To whereas like an organization like the Bengals, like we're waiting for the payments to come in to be like, here you go, because like the Bengals don't have that other operation that they own or another business where they can get that cash flow.
Right. Like the Bengals ownership group, their wealth is all tied up in the team.
Yeah.
Whereas like you got like the Rams who are owned by Kroenke who just has billions of dollars in other businesses. So
Well, I mean,
if
look at
they're
the
a few
last 10
million
years.
dollars short in cash flow, they have other sources of cash that they can access to float like this month, right? So like the draft happened in April. This big chunk of money doesn't come until say now, right? Now-ish. So that's like 2 months, right? But like maybe the Bengals are just like $50 million short. They don't have 50, I don't know what the number is. Maybe it's just 10. But they don't have that 10 to 50 million dollars to put out there for like the Shamar's guaranteed money and then the increase in guarantees for Trey Hendrickson. They just need cash and they don't have access to it in a cheap way that like an ownership group that has more billions of dollars behind them, they can float the money for a couple months, close out deals, get up and running, and then just, get paid on the back end.
Yeah, they just need to find a good investment group that's willing to throw cash at them that will take a percentage of the club and allow the Bengals to do whatever they want with that cash. But just to have that additional 20 to 30 million dollars can put them over the edge where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they are in a position where they should really start to consider it if they want to be competitive with some of these other organizations.
Yeah, but I mean, does it really matter?
To a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, it stinks that Shamar Stewart missed some OTAs, right? But if he's in training camp, I mean, is it that big of a deal?
No, but it just, when I think of it, I think of like the Eagles and how they're run. And it just, all the different head coaches that they threw money at and
Right.
replaced, and look how often they stack their roster. It just seems like year over year they're trading for people, and
Yeah, and the
it,
whole
it-
cash over cap thing.
and
There
and I
are
think that
big
does
advantages to having wealthier owners.
well. Plus, they have wealthy owners, and it seems like they bring in football people to do football stuff, and I also think that's an advantage. It's just a really well run organization, at least from my
Well, yeah,
standpoint.
but I don't think they'll ever give up the football stuff.
What do you mean?
Like, I think that's the family business. I think they take pride in that.
Who, the Eagles? I
No, the
don't know.
Bengals.
Huh?
The Bengals ownership.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with that, and that's why I think, as far as getting an investment group, they'll probably be one of the last teams to actually do it, because it's just like they're so stuck in their old ways and they don't want to give up
Yeah.
any
I
ownership.
mean, I think they'd be late to do that, but I don't think that they would ever willingly cede. Like, I think they like the current Bengals ownership. I think they like the fact that they run the whole thing. Like, I think they have a great sense of pride in it. And I don't think they're going to give it up.
And I can see that point of view, but I also see that the competitive advantage to be able to have those funds to be able to shuffle your roster year in and year out can make a big difference, especially for like your star players, especially like Burrow. Like, you want to show him that you're doing everything you can possibly do year in and year out to have the best possible roster. And I think for the most part, within their limits, they've tried that.
Yeah, no,
Especially since
I
Burrow's been
agree
there.
that, like, yeah, they could be run more like the elite teams in the NFL, but I'm just saying from like a realist perspective, like, I don't see that changing anytime soon. And then, like,
Yeah.
if you're an investor group and you got lots of money to throw at an NFL team, are you going to throw it at an organization that's still run by, like, grandpas and granddaughters and
I
daughters?
think as
and
long as
stuff?
you got Burrow, especially with Chase, I think, yeah, for sure. Because, like, you have marketability, and I feel like Burrow brings in a lot of eyes and can sell.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're in like a unique window where they could sell some ownership shares, but I think that they do have minority owners. I don't know how much there is to sell.
I want to say, wasn't it like 10 years ago? Because I remember hearing the update, and I thought they bought him out, and I was like, what? They didn't own the Bengals 100%? But I want to say it was like 10 or 15 years ago they actually gained full ownership, which is really not that.
Co-pilot now. Okay, so the Bengals remain a tightly held family business. Okay, so it says it's a tightly held family business. So maybe they don't have any ownership group, any. No publicly known minority owners outside the Brown family.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I feel like it was like 10 years ago when they officially bought him out, and I was like, oh, okay. Because I kind of remember seeing it on the news.
Okay, so they have no other owners. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a pretty cool position to be in, and why I would understand you wouldn't want to give up any of that ownership.
Yeah, but there's stuff that could be done then, right? Like if you own 100%, you could like sell like.
This is the time to do it too.
Yeah, but I mean, like you could sell like 5%. They could do it like the Packers, right? You could sell 5% of it where it's just you get nothing, you have no rights, you just give them money.
Well, wouldn't even like 15% be worth like 300 million or something crazy like that? Maybe that's too much.
I saw that the Lakers just sold and they were valued at 10 billion.
Okay.
And then I think the Cowboys are considered the most valuable franchise in the world. So, I mean, I think the Bengals aren't worth what the Lakers are worth, but the NFL teams are worth a lot more than NBA teams. So maybe 10 billion. I don't know. I'll just ask Copilot.
I feel like the Bengals are at least 2 billion.
Yeah, I think that's low because I think the Bucks sold for 2 billion. Milwaukee Bucks.
Huh.
Okay, they say 4.1 billion according to Forbes.
Okay, yeah, so 300 million may not be that far off if you're like,
Yeah, no, 10% is $410 million.
Okay, so yeah, it would be more than that. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm them, I would strongly consider it.
Okay, that took us 15 minutes. We solved all the Bengals problems.
Yeah. Well, we
Sell
know
10% ownership stake, get $410 million in cash. And
Duke, I
then
hope you're
you don't have
taking
to deal
notes.
with all this garbage.
We laid it out for you, man.
I know.
Give you
Duke
the
Tobin
solution.
burner account. You've been served with all the information you need.
I mean, they must have had at least some talks about it, right?
I'm sure they've talked about it, but they probably are
necessarily
just like, we're
consideration,
good, you know?
Yeah. But I also heard they are looking to update some of the salary cap rules to prevent teams from like keep pushing the can down the road, because that is an advantage. Like,
Yeah, but like if you think about, the Bengals are like one of the few ownership groups structured like the way they are, right? So you'd think that like the teams owned by organizations would not want to give up an organization. Corporations and rich owners would not want to give up that competitive advantage of being able to do cash over cap.
No, I agree, but I think it is going to get to the point where it's going to be too much of an advantage, because it kind of will defeat the whole purpose of having a salary cap. Because to me, it wasn't established to keep everything balanced, and that's why like the NFL.
Yeah, I mean it's for competitive balance, but at the same time, I mean,
because it's like NFL teams,
it can't be that bad right now because the Bengals have a really good roster. I mean,
for the most part, yeah.
I mean, I would say that even the most pessimistic Bengals fan would acknowledge that the Bengals are competitive, right?
I would hope so. I mean,
I don't know that it because the thing is like, yeah, cash over cap, you can get like quickly solve problems, but you are still kicking the can down the road.
No, it's extreme waste of money.
And eventually that bubble does come back to bite you. Like we finally see the Rams having to pay for all the stuff they did 3 years ago, right? Because like they've had to deal with some weird issues this year, right? And I know like the Steelers had some cap issues like a couple years ago. So eventually it bites you. So I don't know that it's like a long-term advantage. I guess I feel like I'm in a weird spot because I feel like I'm defending the Bengals because I feel like they get trashed in the media by people who don't understand just basic business and cash flow for being stupid. And I don't think the Bengals are being stupid in this case. They're just trying to figure out ways to resolve their issues with cash flow. And also, Trey Hendrickson is under contract. So if you give him his money in March or if you give him his money in July, what's the difference, right?
And the thing about Trey Hendrickson, again, I want to reiterate, is it's ultimately his agent's fault. Like, really, what it comes down to, it's his agent's fault. And what they're trying to do is make up for a bad extension that they agreed to.
Right.
I think that's where they're kind of hung up, is that he wants this new contract to kind of account for the money that he should have probably gotten had he waited maybe 6 more months. Like,
yeah,
you know what I
mean, because we went through the math on that. Like, basically, he can't get in the 30s because of the way the franchise tag work. He's probably going to average like 27-ish or something like that.
Yeah, but I still think the Bengals will give him a little bit more than that to show, like, hey.
Yeah, like a little bit more, but like they're like if he's asking 30s, they're not going to do 30s. They might do like.
According to Florio, he's saying that their camp is asking north of 35, to where the Bengals are asking probably, or trying to give closer to 28, 30-ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's to me, the number is obviously like 32, 33. If they can get to
it's
that
going to be
number.
28, 27, 28, I think.
I don't know. I think I think it's got to be more than that. If it's just going to be that, then I think he would have signed already.
I don't think that they've offered him that. I just don't think they have the cash. I think there's a reason why he's mad. I think he's mad because they stopped negotiating, and he's taking that as them, sharp dealing, right? But I think it's they stopped negotiating because they don't have the cash.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing they can do until they get the cash.
Plus, there's
so
been a
when
lot
that
of
check hits
updates.
the bank account.
Plus,
now,
there's been a lot of updates with the leasing deal with the county. It seems like
Yeah.
that's been going back and forth. Because at one point it seemed like, oh, they're gonna get it done,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had that disastrous week, I think, and now they're just like, don't they have only a few more days to figure it out?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to it, but I could imagine that's gotta be difficult dealing with like governmental people.
Well, I think the ironic thing about it is that, from what I understand, the county felt like the Bengals got a really good deal, and now they're trying to get back at them. And actually,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the Hendrickson situation. It was just like,
Right. That's the thing, though. It's just like it doesn't matter, right?
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like, come on, Cincinnati. It's like you kind of need the Bengals. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, do you want the Bengals or not? Like, I understand that you want a deal that's fair for the term of the contract. Yeah, of course. Get a fair deal, but you shouldn't get a premium just because you got a bad deal last time, right?
Right.
That's not how it works. I mean,
gotta do better, man.
because when you did the original deal, though, like you were allocating risk, right? So like once it's happened, it's different, right? Because you've seen hindsight's 2020, right? But when the original deal's signed, you're trying to predict the future. You're allocating risk. It turned out in their side. Okay, fine, but like that doesn't have anything to do with the future.
Plus, when the Cincinnati sports teams are hot and they're doing
Mhm.
well, fans show up and out, and they're downtown and they're at the restaurants and at the bars, at the games, and I'm sure they make up the revenue in the back end one way or another. So it's like it having
Yeah, I mean, like they built the banks down there. That's all anchored by the Reds and the Bengals. If you didn't have those two stadiums at either end of the banks, nobody'd want to even be there.
exactly, and it's just like they make so much revenue, and all those businesses that want to be down there just from
Yeah,
the sports
but they're
teams.
all entertainment based businesses, right? They're bars and restaurants.
Yeah.
It's not like it's. I mean, I know there's like GE was down there for a little bit, but like again, it's because it's an entertainment district. People want to live down there because of the social scene, right? It's all based on the fact that you have like these predictable seasons of baseball and football. So, I mean, you kind of like they kind of need each other. Well, no, I don't think the Bengals need city of Cincinnati. Bengals could.
Because I think their play is, couldn't they just go to Northern Kentucky if they really wanted
Well,
to?
they could go to Mason, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
think of all the suburbs in Cincinnati that would like gladly build the Bengals a stadium.
Yeah, but I don't know. Being on riverfront is just it's so
It's
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's like it would be better in a suburb, but I'm saying that like like with that tennis tournament, like the amount of money that Mason has poured into like that tennis venue just for like one tournament a year. Like there are relatively wealthy counties in Cincinnati that would like I think would gladly invest in a Bengals stadium to get those games, right? I mean, you live in it with Dallas. I mean, like what did the Cowboys get just for preseason down in? I mean, that's the thing. Like there would be so many bidders if the Bengals decided, hey, we need a new stadium. So, but I don't know. That's the difficult part, right? Like, I don't think that people truly understand the leverage that an NFL team has.
Well, I saw some of the renovations that they want to do if the plan goes through, and it looks pretty nice. Like they're gonna make it really like the stadium. I think they're gonna add some things to it, but it's gonna.
Are they gonna add more exits? I'd like to be able to exit the stadium in less than an hour.
Would hope that's in the plan, but the features that they're going to add to it had more of like, I guess, a jungle feel to it, but at the same time, like they're going to develop some of the land around it. Get rid of
With
some.
exits,
Yeah.
maybe a few staircases, something fancy like a ramp. So
Maybe that's what's holding up the deal, is that they didn't get the exits approved yet, and that's just like,
I mean, it's just like
final stamp.
as like getting out of there is still like the worst sports experience that I've
I feel like
ever
that's
been
with
a part
every
of.
stadium, though.
No.
I feel like it took us forever to get out of the Cowboys stadium,
Not to get out of the stadium, to get out of
the
the
parking lot.
area.
Yeah,
Yes. But to get out of the stadium, no.
yeah,
We walked right out of that.
that's true. Yeah,
I mean, I just don't like the claustrophobia of being like all pressed up against people, trying to like struggle your way out for like an hour.
mm-hmm.
That's a problem. You know, I mean, also, yeah.
Well, didn't
like,
they renovate something like last year or the year before that? Like the front, or not the front part, but I thought they did something to one of the pavilions where they added more space to help with people walking and all that.
Yeah, I think they've done stuff. I can't remember if I went to a game last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago was the last time we went.
I don't know. I feel like you did go to a game last year, but then
Did I? I don't know. It's hard to keep track.
it might have been 2 years ago. But I know there's a few games where you joined from your phone, but that might have been,
It might have been last year. It might have been because I remember doing that.
yeah. It seems like something we did last year.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, so then I still remember it being painful to get out.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, hopefully that's in the works. Hopefully they get that done. Get the exits added. Add the dome portion, or maybe that's for the new
They're going
stadium.
to put a dome in?
I thought that's what they were talking about. Give it some coverage, but maybe that could be the whole new stadium, because I think that's part of what they're working on, is that they want to renovate their current stadium, but then also start the plans for the new stadium. But that the new stadium won't be for like another 10 or 15 years, but just, I guess, have that plan in place.
That's kind of weird, though. You put Paul Brown's name on the stadium and then you're going to knock it down. I feel like Freud has something to say about that.
What's up, Elston? Who day? But well, it's not. Is it still considered Paul Brown? I thought it was Paycor Stadium.
Oh, that's right. I don't know. I think his name still might be on it, but I could be wrong.
At the very least, he needs a statue, right? Or is there one already?
I
Paul
don't
Brown.
know.
At least get him a statue. They build another.
I feel like we should design that statue. I think we could do a bang up job on designing a statue.
I think so too. All right. Well, let's get into the position groups. So, I guess just from your gut, what position group do you think is going to surprise people the most?
Linebacker.
Okay. Dang.
I wanted to say defensive end, but I feel like because I've been talking about defensive ends for the past 30 minutes. But I think linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Because they drafted some guys. Feel like they added some speed. And I feel like because they put a big emphasis on getting youth in that position, that they have big plans for changing how the defense uses linebackers.
Yeah, and I get a sense they're going to use the linebackers to blitz a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, from what I understand, Al Golden is going to mix things up. He's going to give a lot of different looks. And with some of the players that they drafted, you can kind of tell they're in a position where they can give, especially our divisional rivals, some different looks they've probably never seen before.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with Shamar Stewart, Knight, Carter, the linebacker that we drafted out of Clemson, I feel like there's a lot of different looks we can do and create pressure and do different blitzes that you wouldn't normally see from Lou. So I think that's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And I think it's kind of funny that you picked linebackers because that was like my initial.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, yeah. Because
kill
like I was
your
thinking about it.
guess.
Well, because I feel like most people's initial like thought would be probably running back. If you look
Uh-huh.
at the who we added, who we brought back, and then if Chase Brown starts with a workload earlier in the year, because it seemed like when the offense really took off is when he became the feature back,
Yeah.
and he held up pretty good, and then obviously he got hurt later in the year
Until he
so,
didn't hold up, but yeah.
well, I meant like his production. Like,
Yeah.
had he not gotten injured, he would have been fine. Like,
Yeah, I
when he got
like
injured, that's what stopped him from getting 1,000 rushing yards. Which is
yeah,
kind of
I like
crazy.
the guy out of Texas Tech too. I feel like that's a good
Yes.
combination.
Yes. Yeah, I think he will surprise a lot of people because and it is kind of early because they're not really hitting right now. But as far as the looks of it, they say that he looks like a feature back, or it was just one of those drafts where maybe if it was a different year, he would have been more of a mid-round pick, not like a 6th-round pick. But I feel like he's going to fit in with the Bengals really well. And now we got that good, I guess, compliment to Chase Brown, where we'll have that like more thunder and lightning feel. Because I feel like that was one of the things I was hoping they were going to address was the short yardage runs. Because I felt like even the last couple of years, not just last year, it just seems like when we get in those weird positions where you just got to get yarded to, and like that the Bengals are probably going to run. It just doesn't seem like they do it well. And if you can get a running back that can just always guarantee those yards, I think it would make a big difference because it's going to open a lot of different things. Because like it's just like, what game was it where I think it was early on in the season, but they did that weird where they threw it behind the line of scrimmage. It was only like 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, and they tried to do like that little screen pass to Jamar Chase and got like tackled in the back or behind the line of scrimmage. And it's just like, wow, we have no confidence to run it in that situation.
That's a Trent Irwin play, man.
Yeah.
Everybody knows if you need 7 yards, you got to go to Trent Irwin. But despite that issue, I see what you're saying about the short yardage. But when you talk about short yardage, that makes me think of the guards. So I feel like if they upgrade a guard, probably is going to help that too.
I don't know. It's like, I want to think that, I guess, the draft picks that they've invested in and the people that they brought in from free agency, or even the people that we brought back, like Ford and there was that I think he was a rookie free agent a few years ago. Kirkland, I think. They seem to be really high on him. And coming out of college, I think he had pretty good buzz, but I think he had a pretty bad injury his senior year when he was getting drafted, which really, I guess, cost him getting drafted. But it seems like they're kind of high on him. But for me, like, I still want them, hopefully, once they get everything resolved with Hendrickson, Stewart, and Knight, get those cleared up, that they still have enough money to bring in a veteran guard. Because I feel like, they got room to, as far as like roster space, but just to have that reassurance. But with that said, I do like the prospects that they drafted. Like Fairchild, the more I looked into him, the more I liked him. And then even Rivers, he just, like, it's weird because like when you watch his film, it's weird that he lasted as long as he did, and that we got him in the 5th round. And it just seems like, at least with his size and his speed, like he seems like he's pretty athletic for an offensive lineman, and he can play basically every position on the offensive line. And it seems like he could be the future swing tackle, kind of like what Cody Ford has been doing the last couple of years. Be that plug and play.
I always like Cody Ford. I mean, because I feel like last year he didn't play any guard, like because of the injuries. He had to play a lot of tackle, and I feel like he held up okay as a tackle. So I feel like if you play well enough at tackle to kick inside the guard, I feel like that should be an easy transition. I mean, especially for a guy who played a lot of guard, right? I mean, it's not like it would be a new position for him.
I
He
like Cody Ford
really
as
played
like
well
piece.
in being the swing tackle. So I'm interested in seeing if he can secure a starting guard position, because I think at the beginning of last season, you and I were talking about him being the potential starter at guard, or maybe even during the season, where like we'd like to see him be in the starting lineup at guard. We kind of like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I think I want to say he did play at least 1 or 2 games at guard last year.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think what happened was when Orlando Brown Jr. got hurt, he had to go to tackle for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had to reshuffle things a couple of times because at one point I think they actually didn't they put Ford at left guard? Because I felt like what's his face got benched at one point, Olsen.
Yeah, I think you're right, but like only for a little bit, because then like Orlando Brown got hurt pretty shortly after that happened.
Yeah. But yeah, but I'm not going to go with the running backs. But I guess
Okay, I thought that was your answer.
No. I was just going to say, like, I think that's what most people would say. But then when I kind of thought about it, my thought was going to be linebackers. I was going to try to pick a different group. I don't want to say offensive line, even though I think it could be, because it's just like if the guards could be just slightly above average, it would just be such a tremendous boost. But maybe. Okay, actually, I know what it is. I'm going to say defensive tackles. I feel like that's a solid. There's also a possibility where they probably still have room to add a veteran if they wanted to do that as well. I'm not sure who's still out there, but with the players that they still currently have, I feel like they're gonna like TJ Slayton. I think he's going to be a better fit. He's more of a run stopper. He's going to allow BJ Hill to do more of what he does best, which is more like on the pass rushing side. And we brought him back, and I do feel like we're going to see a jump for Jenkins and McKinley Jackson in year 2, because like I feel like you can kind of see it towards the end of the year, because I feel like Jenkins was starting to get sacks towards the end of the year, and then McKinley Jackson, like there was like it felt like there's always a play or two in each game where he just knows how to jump the snap, and it's like as soon as they snap the ball, he's already in the backfield, and he's made a few plays in the backfield like that. And
yeah, I think that they were just hurt, and I feel like once they got healthy, they started to play well. And I don't think the defense. I think overall in the year, defensive line play was below average, but the first 3 games, the defensive line play was like horrendous. The worst I've ever seen for the Bengals, or the worst I can remember.
Yeah.
Because so many guys were hurt, and then it slowly ramped up to being, not too bad, maybe even average, maybe even okay. So I feel like just having, those 3 guys that we had last year being healthy at the beginning of the year, they'd be okay. And so I like your answer. I like TJ Slayton. I think the Bengals really struggle stopping the run, especially at the beginning of the year. So you add like a elite run stopper. I think the way teams try to play the Bengals, and that was a major weakness. I feel like that's just going to be such a big upgrade. And it's really smart, right? Because that's one of the things that is upgradable in free agency, because run stoppers aren't paid as well as pass rushers. So you can go out and spend some money and get just a solid plug and play run stopper.
And I would even throw in Shamar Stewart or even Sample in there, because I feel like they've had some success. Well, we haven't seen it with Shamar Stewart in the NFL, but I feel like he has the potential to do really good things in the interior defensive line, especially next to Trey Hendrickson. Like I'm really hoping to see that at some point. Shamar lining right next to Stewart or next to Hendrickson as a defensive tackle. Because I just feel like they're gonna put a lot of different fronts as far as like the front seven. You're going to see a lot of different combinations, and I'm sure there's going to be situations where they're going to put the offense in a position where they not sure if it's going to be like a 3-4 or possibly like a 4-3. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have some variations where is he actually playing linebacker or defensive tackle or like what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see that happen. And then it feels like they're going to blitz a lot more too. So I feel like with that added pressure, I guess it's going to put more pressure on the cornerbacks too. Because it's like if they don't hold up on the coverage, then it's not going to matter how quickly you can blitz. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see if they add anyone on the defensive line. But it seems like maybe they're going to shift one of those extra defensive players from the defensive line to the linebackers. Maybe keep an extra linebacker, especially if you're going to have more of like a. Well, I don't know. I don't see them doing a lot of like 3-4 looks where you would actually have more linebackers than defensive linemen. But then again, I guess it could kind of work because I feel like the way Osai plays, Hendrickson, or even Stewart, like they could play like outside linebacker and just rush in like a 3-4 if that was the look. But I guess it also comes back to like how well did the Bengals adapt to challenge the divisional rivals, because it's like you always got to get better against your divisional teams. So like I feel like I don't know, the Browns is a tricky team to me because like if you look at the roster, I feel like they have a lot of good players. It's just the big question mark is quarterback, and always been for them.
They got like 10 quarterbacks now. They should be fine.
Yeah, it's like they can put in a new quarterback every quarter, throw the defensive off. But then the Steelers, I don't know. I guess it really just depends on what happens with TJ Watt. I wonder if they're going to get that settled. I feel like he probably is going to wait on the Hendrickson deal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. It really just depends because I feel like it may not help him waiting for the Hendrickson deal. Because if Hendrickson signs closer to what the Bengals want, then that's what the Steelers are going to want to do.
Yeah. I think he will. That's my prediction.
Yeah. They're going to have to do it. It's not like they, because he's like one of their essential keys to their defense. He's kind of what makes everything goes. But I'm not really like afraid of Aaron Rodgers. Like in perfect conditions, I think he'll be fine. But I don't know. The AFC North is not the division you want to be in when you're like an aging quarterback and you're not as mobile as what you used to be, and you're still only like 2 years removed from like a major injury. So it's like I don't know if this was the best division to be in for his situation, but and then of course the Ravens. It's always the Ravens are always the Ravens. They always have a really good team until it's playoff time.
Yeah, I feel like they really upgraded their secondary because they drafted safety.
Yeah, but one of their safeties the starting safety got hurt.
Which one?
I forget his name, but he played really well last year, and he was expected to start over Starks, but obviously he got hurt. So now, luckily, they drafted him, so they still have Starks to put in. But like, don't get me wrong, like I think Starks is going to be a pretty good player, but I mean, you're still asking a lot for a rookie to come in, and like him trying to figure out what the Bengals are going to do is going to be pretty tough because I feel like the Bengals offense is pretty like. I don't want to say it's like sophisticated, but they have a lot of looks where if you think they're going to do one thing, they have like a different route that you can run. Because I was just watching this highlight with Gesicki, I think his first touchdown. Like they did a play where it looked like they were doing a bubble pass to Jamar Chase, and two defenders like went after Chase, and Gesicki was open on the seam. It's like stuff like that. It's like they have so many pieces that they can play a lot of mind games with the defense, and I think that's a lot of rookies are gonna have issues with that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if you look at the Ravens roster from top down, I mean, it's pretty good. They shouldn't have any excuses. But I still wonder about their offensive line. Like I feel like I could see their offensive line regressing a little bit because I feel like last year their offensive line kind of had a slow start, but then once they started getting the running game really going, it made it a lot easier for a lot of other things. Plus, they have Lamar Jackson in the backfield, so I feel like they get credit for like good pass blocking when it's just I don't know, because I feel like sometimes those mobile quarterbacks they're more quick to like leave the pocket when they could just manipulate it a little bit more. So I think in a way, because they leave so quickly, it helps out some of the offensive linemen and some of their grading. Because if he's out of the pocket, then at that point, like, do they even score him? Like,
Right.
Like
he's not going to get sacked. So
yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I that's where I'm interested to see is if it's really going to hold up, because I still kind of see flaws, because I kind of remember specifically early in the year last year for the Ravens, it just seemed like people were getting a lot of pressure, but then they figured out the run game and it got really strong, and it's just like they kind of built everything off of that. But then again, I do feel like the Bengals kind of, they got TJ Slayton, and then their 2 draft picks from last year. I think they kind of accounted for, the traditional AFC North run games. It seems like everyone in the AFC North has a pretty decent run game. Probably the Bengals may have the worst if you look at it. Like, if you're just looking at true rushing, not necessarily production out of the backfield. Because I do think Chase Brown is going to do pretty good catching the ball out of the backfield. I think there's going to be a pretty significant improvement from last year. I think he still had close to 300, 400 yards. It's probably closer to 300, because I think he ended up with like 1,200 total yards. Yeah, I want to say it's closer to 300. But like the thing is like it was like week 6 or 7 where he really became like the feature back. But I've heard several coaches and several players talk about him, and it seems like I guess there is an emphasis of him getting the ball out of the backfield as far as like passing. So I could definitely see an increase of production there. But then again, we did get Brooks. Like, he may add a little bit more stability to the actual run game, especially in the short yardage situations. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Chase Brown's stats because I thought you were talking about it.
Oh, yeah. What does it say? How many total yards? Oh, he had 1,350? Yeah.
Yeah.
So receiving, 283.
360 receiving yards.
Oh, what the hell was this other one?
What?
It says touch. Okay, yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing. 360. Yeah, he had him as 400, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
990 rushing yards. Yeah, he would have easily got 1,000 had he not got hurt, because I don't think he played the last game.
Yeah, 1,350 total yards, 11 touchdowns. It's good.
Yeah. I think he's going to be the next one we're going to have to worry about as far as like paying. So that's going to be interesting. But that won't be for another year. We have one more year.
Let's not worry about that.
It's too early for that.
Yeah. Way too early.
All righty. Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we're good. Nice off-season chat about the Bengals. Not much going on.
Hopefully the next stream, Hendrickson has his deal yet. But maybe that check doesn't come in until like March. Or not March, July.
March. Yeah.
I wish it was March. Then we
right, because they gotta deposit that money at signing. So.
Yep. All right. Well, peace.